This is the strangest car I've ever seen, and now I own it. Let's get started. And just like I just said, it is very odd, but it is awesome all at the same sentence. This is a 1969 Citroën DS 19 or ID 19. It is in driver quality. It's not museum quality. It's in good shape. It runs and drives, but it leaks like a sieve. It has leaks everywhere. You just saw this on Hoovie's Garage, and just like that, we did a video on it. Tyler saw all the work that it needed. He kind of questioned himself why he even bought it, and he's like, Wizard, I don't even know what I want to do with this thing. It's not even a gamble of, do I want to fix it or not? He said, I don't even know if I want this car. I was like, I'll take it. And now I am the proud owner, and Mrs. Wizard as well,
thanks,
of a Citroën DS 19. So we just did a post-purchase inspection for Hoovie's Garage, and it turned into a pre-purchase inspection for me. I kind of knew it was going to need a lot of work. It runs, it drives. We're going to go over and look it all over here in a minute. This is going to be a two-part video. This car is so cool, I literally could do an hour video on it. I don't want to bore you guys with a full hour. So this video we're going to look it over, talk about it. In the next video we will show all the weird quirks and features that it has, and it has a lot of them. It's pronounced different ways. I just finished watching Jay Leno's video on his Citroën, and he pronounced it Citroën. You can watch his video and verify that. But if you watch Top Gear, Jeremy Clarkson, James May, Richard Hammond, all three of them say the same, Citroën, which is the way they say in England. I find it a lot easier to say Citroën, so I'm just going to call it a Citroën. It works for me. I am still learning about this car even as we speak. I've kind of tootled it around the shop. I haven't taken it out on the road, but it's going to need a lot of work. Let's go ahead and walk around this car. From that angle, Mrs. Wizard, it looks like a wide-mouthed frog. You can see it has 4 circular headlights, which was mandated by the United States law when this car was sold here. Overseas, you would have gotten swiveling head. They would have swiveled right here, would have turned with the steering wheel. That was not an option you could even buy in the United States. It was illegal. And you heard that I mentioned it was purchased in the United States. This one was purchased, I believe, in the Houston area when it was new. As we go around to the side, you can see the hubcaps are missing. Danielson has been inspecting it and getting a list together of everything I need to buy. There's also some panels missing on the inside of the wheel liners. You can see it's blue with a white top. It's been repainted. The paint job is a 6 out of 10, maybe a 7. It's pretty good, but if you look closely, you can see a lot of little dots all in it, especially on the roof. It's like where the solvent or something popped through, or I'm not sure what happened there, but it's decent. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to get it repainted. I'm not going to mess with it. You can see that the rear wheels are narrower in their track width than the front, kind of like a crab track, kind of what it's called. It handles a lot better that way. Here's where we put our fuel. As you go around to this side, you can see on the pillar here it says it is a DS. The roof, by the way, being made of fiberglass. And as you can see, it's not dented in or caved in or rusted out. Actually, there's really no rust on this car at all. That fact is really amazing on this car, that there's no rust. But overall, it's in pretty good shape. Let's go ahead and pop the bonnet or the hood, or I don't even know what they would call it in France. This is a French car, by the way. So on these cars, it has 2 hood latches, one on the driver's side. And now I'll go to the passenger side. Here's our aluminum hood. It's actually very light. It has its own built-in little hood prop here. It fits in right there. That is our 1.9 liter 4-cylinder, being that this is a 19 model. It is very unconventional in its layout. The engine is back there. The transmission is right in here. You can't see it. You'll see when we get it on the lift. It sits backwards. You can see the green balls. There's one for each wheel. That is the suspension. It's a fluid spring. Those balls are filled with like 3,000 psi. I believe it's nitrogen. And the fluid just compresses that gas as you go along. That is your spring.
You have a lovely bedpan on top there, dear.
No, that's an air filter. That's not a bedpan.
I know, but just look kind of like they sourced it from a hospital.
Yeah, it kind of does. It has a single downdraft Weber carburetor. These are like 75 horsepower. They're not very powerful at all. And that was one of the downfalls of why they didn't sell very well. You can see there's a little aftermarket fuel filter in line, and it runs up to the little fuel pump that supplies fuel to the carburetor. Here's our steering rack. Everything's there. Everything on this car, with the brakes, the steering, and the suspension, is ran by this hydraulic system that uses LHM fluid, which is in this reservoir. I'll open the cap. I'll shine a light in there and you can see that it's green colored. It looks like antifreeze. If it leaked on the ground, you would say, I have a coolant leak, and you don't. It's LHM, hydraulic type of a fluid. They originally designed this car to have an air-cooled 6-cylinder, kind of like a Porsche, but things didn't work out. It was cheaper to go with liquid-cooled, and they kind of had to figure out how are they going to make this radiator situation work. It in itself is really weird. Take a look, guys. It has a fabric ductwork here. The spare tire actually sits right here, but it breathes from underneath the car, pulls air up. There's actually a zipper here. I'm not going to open it because I don't want to rip it or tear it. It's very fragile. But that directs the airflow directly into the radiator. Another thing that's really strange and interesting is this is a 1969 car, but they have this bar here. It looks like a hand crank, a kind of a foot crank, I guess. And that's exactly what it is. You see a hole right here? I can put my finger in there. There's also a hole up here. You can see my finger there. It goes in those holes I just showed you. Let's see if I can get it here. I guess I'll turn on the key and try it. We did verify it's in neutral, the handbrake is on, everything is so it doesn't lurch. Let me double check that to make sure it rolls by hand, and it does. Okay. I don't even know if it's going to start. It's just worth, I'm just showing you guys that it can be done. It's alive! So all those years of kick-starting motorcycles paid off. I gave it a good swift kick, and it came to life. So if your battery is ever dead, and there's just enough juice to at least run the distributor, there you go. You can start your car just like the good old days in 1900. So like I just told you at the beginning of this video, this is the oddest car I've ever seen. It's a very strange car, but as Jay Leno said in his own video, it is one of the most innovative cars ever in all of existence of all cars. He mentions that himself, and I'm going to agree with him. It is really, really a cool car. In 1969, there's no Buick, no Chevy, no Pontiac, no Cadillac, Lincoln. There's nothing you can buy that does what this car does and has the technology it has. There's cars today that don't have this technology. It's a really cool car. As you can see, the engine runs perfect. It took like 2 kicks, it came right to life. It idles fine, the transmission works good, the clutch works good. The problems this car has is fluid leaks through the hydraulic system. But before we dive into that, let's let Mrs. Wizard show you guys in the interior. It's even stranger, guys, inside of there.
Okay, ladies and gents, let's get exploring in here. And one thing that's very interesting is it says it has 24,712 miles. And the Wizard and I are not so sure if this is its first time around those numbers, because this doesn't look like it's had a whole lot of wear. Simple dash lights up there, and one thing that is fun is if I hit the blinker here, you can actually see the bulb back there. And if I go the other way, it still blinks just the same size. So you better know which if you pushed up or down, because it's just blinking on that one side. Not so sure what he's doing over there, if that bulb is just out, but he's the only one that blinks whether you're going left or right. Here's our temperature gauge. It's either lines in the center or in the red. So I guess if you've got lines, you're freezing your butt off if it's winter. And if it's in the red, you better turn this baby off because he's about to, boil over. So there you go. Simple instructions for that. As we move up, we have a really small little dash, but it's in really, really, really good shape. The only infinitesimally small little air mark blemish is right there. Minor little crack. I'm telling you, that's itsy bitsy. Here's our very, kind of dirty glove box. Looks like something got spilled in there. Go ahead and close that up. And we have our nice, simple ashtray. I'm not sure where the cigarette lighter is in here. Haven't discovered that yet, so we must have had to have a lighter. Obviously, that is not a stock radio from 1969. That would have been an AM only edition at that time frame. So do appreciate the addition of a nicer radio, but it's all the way over there on the passenger's side. So good thing it's a small car so you can reach over. As we move down, you'll see that we have very simple HVAC controls. It's either on the cool side or the warm side. If I want to go on the floor, I can physically hear the vents moving. We go up to the dash. Let's go ahead and hear that. There you go. You can hear it physically moving. And then how much air is it blowing? A little bit, blowing a lot. That's all there is to this. So while the dash didn't have leather on it, the door cards do. And there is a bit of a mess over there on that one armrest, which of course will get addressed at some point. Still trying to discover what all this little beast has. Has an interesting vinyl little map holder over there that's in really good shape. We do step down into the cabin area, and there's a little bit of a wear there because it's not a very thick material. But you can also see that the seats are also raised. So we definitely are in a nice little valley here. In the center, another little, map holder of some sorts. But the seats, going back here, are leather. There's our rear view mirror for that side. You can see there's no glass in that mirror over there. But it is a split seat with no armrest. So I guess you could be quite cozy with your sweetheart. Or I can grab my armrest from the back seat and put it between us in case I need to have a little distance between me and the Wizard. So let's get this installed. And there we go. Literally, it just raises and lowers into place. A little bit of a tear there as well, but we can get that addressed also. So now I have a very small little armrest between the two seats. But if you want to cuddle, there you go. Take that baby out. The back seat is in really good shape. So is the back deck. Looking in nice condition. There's no tears or rips back here, and the seats are actually very soft and very cushy, very reminiscent of an older Volkswagen seat. As we scroll down though, you'll see that we have more of that leather on the door with that fabric as well. No map holder here, but you can see also that we do have our step down into the seat area, and on the back of our seats, you can see we also have another ashtray for the people in the back seat. The one thing that is interesting is in the pillar, you'll see that we do have a light there. There is no light in our very large, very, very huge roof, and it is covered. That is, even though it is fiberglass, it is fabric lined. But as we look, even though these pillars are rather fragile and very delicate, we do have a light between the front and the back seat. Okay, so ladies and gents, as we end up at our steering wheel, there's still a whole lot more to talk about, but let's get through it pretty quick. So here's that blinker that I showed just a second ago, but if I want to do the horn, I just pull it towards me. That's definitely an odd addition. Underneath the steering wheel, you'll see that is where we have the key ignition. That's not where you actually start the car though. You just turn it one click like you would on a more modern day, like Maserati Grand Sport like that I have. But we don't start it there. We do one click, get it in auxiliary mode. And then we come over here and we push that blue button. So talk about innovative of the time. That's how we start. And of course, as we turn it off, we come back over here and of course, turn it off from the ignition, pull the key out. But as you notice, it has a long snorkel almost, this big long tube that comes out for our steering wheel, because otherwise the steering wheel would be way up in the middle of nowhere, way up here. Can't really drive a car that way. So they have that long kind of a snorkel coming out. It is a leather wrapped with very, very big stitching, but it's in a really great shape. Obviously being 1969, no airbags, nothing like that. So pretty straightforward, easy to use. So I think that's about it for what's going on in here for now. Who knows? We might have to do another tour in here at some point, but as of now, this odd little thing has had enough to talk about for today. Let's get this thing started. You have not seen one of its great oddities yet. So let's get this started up on the lift.
So weird. You can hear it clicking, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. Let's get this thing on the lift. So now I'm going to put it in its highest setting. There's a lever on the floor that I can change the height. And there we go. Now I'll get it on the lift. So we've got it in the air. Already I see it's making puddles, green puddles at all the wheels. And I kind of knew that when I bought it. We did an inspection and saw that. It's going to get even weirder, guys. This car never disappoints to just be weird and then be weirder again. It's just weird. Okay. So here's our intake for the radiator. They have a screen here so that you don't inhale a duck or a bird or something. You can see the radiator way up in there. It has no condenser because there's no air conditioning offered on this model. That wasn't until like 72. These are some snouts that suck in air to cool the inboard brakes. That's right, the brakes are not at the wheels. They're inboard like an old Jaguar. These have a lower control arm, a drive shaft or prop shaft, upper control arm, a tie rod. That's it. No brakes. Obviously we just saw there on the inside. Here is the little arm that's used for raising and lowering this car. And there's the cylinder up there. You can see the bellows. That is the suspension that actually holds the wheels up. So I mentioned that the transmission is backwards to what you're thinking on Grandpa's Chevy truck. It's completely backwards. The engine's right here. There is no transmission back here. It's up here. The transmission's in the front. And it's front-wheel drive. It has it's kind of like a transaxle. It has the shafts coming out the sides. You can see there's a little bit of a leak going on. There's lots of leak, guys. We're going to have to really dive in. I don't even have the full list together yet. Danielson's going through and he's starting to write things down. He's found a few things already, but there's going to be lots of leaks to address. So I mentioned it had a ball at each wheel for the suspension, and it has a fifth ball for the brakes right here. There's a little valve and a ball going on there. I do know that the CV boots on the inboard joints on these are both destroyed. I'll have to get those replaced. You can see I can put my finger through it. But there's not much going on out here, and it looks like this is not connected or something's wrong, but that's just kind of the way it is. It just sits there. Again, very simple front suspension. You would think it's super complicated but it's not. Now that is complicated. There's lots of lines and things going on, and here's some more of that's our lifting and lowering of the suspension there. Lots of little lines and T-connectors and valves, all kinds of stuff everywhere there. So our brakes are inboard. The brake pads, they're actually right there. They're all wet. I'm going to have to remove all that and see what's leaking. There's the parking brake up there. Those are the pads for the parking brake. Yes, you're seeing disc brakes on a 69 vehicle in the front. There are drums in the back, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute. But at the front of the engine, which is the back, there's the front. It's kind of weird. There's no main pulley or anything. It's just a timing case. Very strange. So our exhaust comes down and goes to this weird sideways muffler. It's like underneath the seats. It's a weird tube shape. And then it goes into these two tiny little pipes all the way out the back. It's strange little pipes. So obviously, other than the exhaust, which most cars have rust on, the rest of the body of this car is rust-free. All the floor pans, everything has this nice thick coating. You can see there's no rust holes anywhere. As we come to the back wheels, you can see this one is leaking. This is one of the cylinders. This is the ball right here. That's the pressurized ball. The cylinder is actually right here. And then there's an arm, or actually a rod, that goes out to this linkage here. And the suspension just rides basically on that. And as you can see, it's leaking pretty good. It's marking its territory already. Here's the drum brakes. Again, there's no springs like we think of. There's no shock absorbers. There's nothing back here, just the actual control arm and this hydropneumatic. It's a shock and a spring all in one. That's it. So you say all these systems are so complicated. Not really. Not on this car anyways. Same thing over here. It's leaking. I already knew that it was leaking. Drum brakes. And there is a tiny bit of rust here. I will definitely be sanding that. It's not rusted through. It's just surface rust. I will sand that and put a coating on it. That's the only rust on this thing. We do have some tie points here. If you get stuck in the mud, you can tie on here and pull yourself out, or someone can pull you out, rather. It's actually a simple car. It's really complicated, but simple at the same time. It's really strange. So these are brand new tires. I know they're new. Let's go ahead and take a look, see how new. So as we can see, the tire is made the 50th week, which is about the end of 2020. So these tires are definitely good. They got a long life ahead of them. Let's get this thing on the ground. So this is definitely going to be a two-part video. This car has so much to offer as far as quirks and features and how awesome it is. It really can't be done in 15 minutes. I did find a website. There's CitroenDS.net and a few other places where you can get these suspension balls and cylinders. I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's going to be thousands and thousands because it's such a weird car, but it's not. They're like $100, $200 per side for the cylinder, another $100 for the balls. Probably for a couple grand, I can take care of the all of it. The reason for that is these were made from 1955 to like in the 70s sometime. They made 1.6 million of these cars. Now only 38,000 came to America. This is one of the 38,000. Like I said, it came from the Houston area. They didn't sell well because the engines were small, they were underpowered, they were kind of expensive. And just as you saw the complexities of all the pipes and hoses, can you imagine taking this to a gas station mechanic in the 1960s? Ralph gets his big wrenches out. He takes a look at this thing and he goes, oh, hell no. I don't even know what... The engine's backwards, the transmission's in the front. It got like 500 little metal pipes everywhere. And they would say, get this car out of my shop. I'm not even touching this thing. So that was really kind of killed the deal for these cars and sales in America. Otherwise, it could be really cool. So I'll order all the parts that I need once Danielson figures out everything that it needs. We will not be doing a full restoration on this. The engine runs perfect, the transmission is fine, the clutch, everything's happy. I need to solve the brakes, the leaks, and that comes to mind the clicking noise you heard while this engine was running. The reason why it's making the clicking noise is because it's hitting max pressure in the fluid system, and it's a safety valve. It's clicking to release the pressure, and the reason for that is all 5 balls that this thing has, that sounds weird, guys, 5 balls. All of them supposed to have high pressure nitrogen in them. And on this car, they are all failed. The nitrogen's gone, it's just solid, hard fluid. So it pumps up fluid, there's no give, there's no gas to give, and it just spikes at max pressure. You hear the clicking. That will go away once I replace all the balls, take care of the leaks, and it'll be back in business again. Engine-wise, I'm not going to have to really do anything. If it can start that easy by the kickstart I just showed you, I know that it's in proper tune. I know that it's in tip-top shape. Because, I mean, it just clicked one little turn and it fired right up. Once this thing's up and running, I'm going to enjoy driving this thing. Just like Jay Leno says in his video, it is his opinion that it is the most comfortable, smoothest, softest riding car in all existence, of all cars ever made. So that is going to be a real plus to enjoy a nice, smooth ride. The system that's on this car, the weird hydraulics, the gas springs, all this stuff, we see that in Bentleys and Rolls Royces in the 1960s, the 70s, the 80s. Those are those systems that most mechanics don't want to work on. It's so complex. Well, Bentley and Rolls Royce got that system from this car maker, Citroën. The advantage I have is they made 1.6 million of these. They did not make 1.6 million Bentley Turbo Rs or Mulsannes or anything like that. And their system is way more complex than this one. This one's way simplified, less expensive. The Bentley and the Rolls Royce is going to be quadruple, quintuple, sextuple the price to fix than this car. A lot of these parts are going to come from overseas, possibly France. I don't know where they have all the stock, but I have time. It's definitely worth fixing. I'm basically giving Hoovie what he paid for it so he can get out of it and be done with it. I believe these cars will continue to increase in value because they are so strange, and yet they are so innovative and so cool. Anybody who's a true car guy, a true car collector, this is a holy grail of cars. It is that special. So I'm very excited to own this car. I've always wanted one, and it came into the shop, and it's just like the perfect combination. Tyler didn't really want it that much anymore, and I definitely did. And I can fix this and enjoy it.
What, you liking odd, weird, peculiar cars?
Yes, I like odd cars. This is very odd. This is like the king daddy of odd cars. It really is.
I'll give you that.
If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this Citroën DS, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. All our tools that we use in the shop are listed for sale there. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button because, like I said, there's a second video coming on this thing just to finish showing you guys the rest of the quirks and features. So hit the subscribe button, guys. Thanks for watching.